topic builds on some of our previous topics. Sorry about that. Technology. Okay, got it. Sorry. Today's topic, evaluation, builds on some of our previous topics. We're doing these once a month, and I thank all of you for coming because it lets us know at Springer Rescue that, once again, we already know how devoted you are to helping your foster dog succeed, and that's super important. So thank you for that. The dogs appreciate it, the people who adopt them appreciate it, and it makes the world a better place. So if you have, as questions come up, put them in the comments. We're going to do this in two sections today. The topic is evaluation. No dog is a blank slate, but we have a unique opportunity in rescue. So part one is going to be about evaluation and what that means and what we need to do. And part two is going to be about some of the specific behaviors that we need to look at in foster dogs. So we'll go ahead and get started. Part one, what does evaluation mean and what do we need to do? So what do we need to know about a foster dog? We need to get to know him, but there's specific information that we need to do our job and to help him be a better pet, right? So evaluation is an ongoing process, and it may not be what you think. Evaluation is how we determine our jobs, how we make a plan for the dog, and how we plan for what we need to do to help him be the best he can be. It's not a way to label dogs. It's a way to help them be the best pets they can be. So think about it this way. Evaluation is putting the dog in a flight simulator to help him learn how to operate the plane, rather than putting him behind the controls of an airplane and letting him crash and burn, giving him a chance to learn and a chance to succeed without danger of damaging his behavioral future. So it's not asking what does the dog do every time he's in a certain situation. Every time he sees a dog, he does blank. Every time a visitor comes to the door, he does this. That's not what it is. What it is the question is, how much input do I need to have for this dog to do what I want in a given situation? Because he can do it. He just needs some help. So how much input does it take for the dog to watch calmly, to greet someone in a friendly manner? Or maybe that dog's just not ready to be in that situation yet, and that's your job to observe and determine what he's ready for, right? Okay, so we have a unique opportunity, and here it is. A new environment provides an opportunity to get closer to a blank slate. The environment actually drives behavior. Everything in the environment contributes to what the behavior of anybody's going to be, of any organism. So that means all of the inanimate parts of the environment, the people that are involved, other organisms, whatever. So this new dog has never practiced any bad behaviors in this new environment in your home. He's also never practiced any good behaviors and seen that they can result in good things. So you have a moment. There's a moment to build new responses, and then we can transfer them into new environments. And that's not a pipe dream, that's science, and it's a fact. So that's why I was so adamant in the previous presentation about starting out right, that moment when he crosses that line from his old environment into his new environment, and it's not a line, it's a series of transitions. It's super important. So what do we do about that? So the first thing is, don't ask questions that you may not want the answer to. So literally just this week, a Springer adopter, not a foster, said this to me. Every time he's in the family room and I'm in the other room, he jumps up on the coffee table or the TV cabinet and he steals things like the remote control and runs away with them. Okay, so the answer to the problem is in that statement. Do you hear it? Every time he's in the family room and I'm in the other room. Okay, So you put him in the airplane behind the controls and he crashed and burned, and then you did it again and he crashed and burned again. And I don't know how many times, but you need to get him in the flight simulator. And that means monitoring. That means the leash, keeping him with you. Don't let him go in the other room by himself. He's crashing and burning bit by bit. Don't do it. Okay, so here are your steps. Step 1, don't put him in the position to show his old bad behaviors. Remember, if he does it once, he's learning, and you're losing that advantage of that new environment. Catch the dog getting it right. Number 2, practice. Make yourself and your behavior predictable, and make this a habit with all dogs. Number 3, write down what you're doing to help the dog do the right thing. Don't write down a label of the dog, write down what it takes to get it right. Every dog can keep his 4 feet on the floor. What does it take from you for him to do that? Reinforcement and association are never more important than this very moment. Okay, so we got to talk about science for a minute. Scientific evidence shows that even newborn puppies are not blank slates. A lot of things happened in utero and during birth and in those early weeks of their lives. And scientists agree that it's not nature or nurture that creates a personality, but it's nature and nurture, and they interact in very complex ways. But we know that humans who raise dogs have an impact on their behavior, and so does every experience they have. So genetics are not to be ignored. Hunting dogs make great pointers and setters and flushers and retrievers. Guarding dogs guard, and herding dogs herd, and fighting dogs fight. So genetics are there. But the cool thing is that nature, also known as genetics, gives dogs qualities they can express. But nurture, which is the training, the handling, and the management of our foster dogs, gives dogs the qualities that they will express. So what power do you have as a foster home? How awesome is that? And then the basic behaviors, the skills that all dogs need to live in a human world are basic. It's just a few little things about making good choices that result in any dog being able to thrive in a human world. So that's good news for mixed breeds whose genetics we don't even know, right? And that's also why you hear me pushing genetics to the side a lot. I do push them aside a lot. Because the truth is, household manners and making good choices are really simple, not easy for the humans to teach, but they're very simple, and they work for all dogs. So, a little more science. It's a fact that reinforcement builds behavior. So we're going to talk a little bit about reinforcement because we're going to need this in our next section. So what is reinforcement? Reinforcement is defined as something given immediately after a behavior. It's contingent on that behavior, and it increases the frequency of the behavior in the future. That's positive reinforcement. So, yeah, that's right. You don't know for sure if you reinforce the behavior until you start to see it more frequently in the future. But we can make some pretty good guesses about what to give the dog to increase that behavior, and then we can watch and see how it's working. You do know that you didn't reinforce the behavior if you're not seeing it more frequently. So the science is correct. The science works. The methodology will work. You have to apply it correctly, but it's not hard. It takes some effort, but it's not hard. So what does that mean? What does immediate, contingent, and increases frequency mean? Immediate, here's an example. Dog pees in the grass. The treat goes in his mouth just as he's lifting up from finishing peeing. That way, that treat is directly connected with the behavior of peeing in the right place that you've determined is the right place. There's really no question that it's connected with that in the dog's mind or your mind. So here's an example of not immediate and also not contingent on the behavior. Dog pees in the grass and you're waiting on the porch because it's wet outside and you have your house shoes on and you don't want to get it wet. So then he pees and you're like, oh, that's great, buddy, come here. And then you call him and you pet him, and that's a good start. And you walk to the kitchen and then you get the treat and then you give it to him. but you can see it's not directly connected with peeing in the grass. You're probably getting some benefit, but the more direct you make that connection, the better the training is, and the faster and more efficiently the dog learns and doesn't forget. So contingent is, think of it meaning dependent on the behavior. And you'll know this, the dog only gets the treat if the behavior is correct. The codicil to that is, you have to find something that the dog can do and get correct to get the treat, because you can't wait 2 weeks and never give him a treat and say, well, he never did anything right in 2 weeks. Well, you need to redefine what's right, and you need to be able to give him a treat for some little bits of behavior, because you're teaching him how this works, how to perform behaviors to get things he likes, and that he has some power to make those choices, and that's going to expand into the whole realm of this dog's life and his future. So increasing the frequency of behavior means just that. If the behavior that you want is not getting better, then just back up and take another look at your plan. It's that simple. If you notice that another behavior besides the one you want is getting more frequent, then really take a look at how that behavior is being reinforced and just change your plan right now. You have the power to look at that and just make some changes. Change all the time. Just keep changing. It's really that simple. Okay, reducing stress levels, low stress handling, and good management and positive reinforcement will change the behavior of a dog. How are you going to put them to use with your foster dog? So think about this. This is an amazing outcome that you can get. So think of, we humans do like to label dogs, don't we? And people, we like to say, I'm this way, he's that way, the dog is this way. So think of this. So a dog that looked like he was going to be labeled a resource guarder is now a great fetch player, a great retriever, brings in the paper and picks up every pencil you drop. How cool is that? Did you know today is National Fetch Day? I just saw that on Facebook. So there you go. Take any possibility of a dog ever getting ready to become a resource guarder and turn him into a fetcher. How cool is that? Okay, dog that could have been a counter surfer, looked like he could have been a committed counter surfer, now lies quietly on a mat in the kitchen or outside the kitchen while you're preparing meals or eating. Dog that looked like he was going to be a committed jumper-upper now sits every time somebody walks up. Dog that looked like he was going to be a leash freight train now loves to go for walks on a loose leash. And that's the power that you have as a foster home. So that's the end of section 1. We're going to take some questions, if you have any, and then we're going to go to section 2 where we talk about some specific behaviors. So do we have any questions?
No questions yet.
Okay.
Let's give it just a minute.
Okay, we'll wait just a second.
Not a lot of traffic out here today. Nothing.
Okay, no questions yet. You want to hear the whole thing before you ask your questions, and that's okay. We can do that. Okay. So in section 2, we're going to talk about 8 groups of behavior that are important to evaluate in your foster dog. So let's remember what evaluation is. Evaluation is starting the second you meet that dog, starting to lay out your plan for how this dog is going to succeed in these areas, and these are suggested areas for any dog. Of course, there are going to be dogs that have problems like, compulsive behaviors and, whatever else. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about every dog, from a little puppy to an old dog to anywhere in the middle. So they're based on what people want, what everybody wants in a dog, what adopters want in their dog, and what they expect. And they're good goals to have. So remember what evaluation is. It's putting the dog in a flight simulator where he cannot crash and burn, he cannot damage his behavioral future, but he can learn from you, and you can teach him and you can help him succeed so that you can start peeling away those layers of management and allowing him into more situations where he can make real choices and get closer to being behind the controls of the airplane because he can make good choices. So determining which situations he's ready for is a big part of it. All right, so behavior set number 1 is, guess what? Potty training. So some of these are going to be things that we need to do 100%. Others are going to be things that we just get as close to the goal as we can and we're constantly working toward. Because potty training, we can get 100% on potty training. What do people want from potty training? People want dogs to let them know when they need to go to the bathroom, and they want dogs to only potty outside. Sure, there are exceptions of potty pads or whatever, but we're just going to say outside right now. But no matter what surface they're going to pee and poop on, they need to be trained to do it. So the evaluation for this is start out right. There's a whole presentation on that topic. Make note of how much input you need to have to get that 100% success, because you can get 100% success. You can have the dog only goes to the bathroom outside through prevention and reinforcement. And don't stop until potty training is 100%. You know, if you've had the dog for a month and you're still not 100%, redo your plan, revisit your plan and see what you need to do. It's not hard. It just requires input from you. So the cool thing about potty training is it's a self-control behavior. You're going to see improvement in other areas as the dog learns to control himself and make choices. That's what it is. It's feeling that urge to go to the bathroom and saying, hey, I need to go to the bathroom instead of just squatting to pee, right? So it's self-control, and it spreads into other areas. All right, number 2, staying home alone. So what people expect and want is for dogs to happily enter their confinement areas, whether it's a crate or a laundry room or the whole house, and be quiet and not cause any trouble while people are gone. Seems simple, right? It's harder for some dogs. So evaluation of this is put him in the flight simulator. And that means the very first time you leave this new dog that you have, make it a planned, controlled training session where you leave for a very short time. You go through the steps you're going to go through. You put him in his confinement area. You leave him with a delectable, the best, amazing chew bone or stuffed Kong or whatever gets him super excited. You leave for a very short time, 5-10 minutes, and then you come back and you see where he is. How does he look? Is he calm and relaxed? Did he chew his chewy? Awesome. If it turns out there's not a problem, then you can start to relax the routine right away, a little bit at a time. But don't start out sticking him behind the controls of the airplane, leave him in the whole house, excited and worried, and then come back and find your curtains torn up. If there does look to be a problem after that very short trip that you've left him with the bone or whatever, and he looks nervous, he didn't eat his bone, okay, looks like a little bit of a problem. Let's fix it now before it gets out of control. So you can start with closing interior doors between you and the dog. Tossing a treat, closing the door, opening it back up. That's as simple as it can begin. Look at your confinement plan. Is it your leaving that got him upset, or is it being wherever you left him that got him upset? So really look at that, and look at stress reduction. Add stress reduction on an overall level, and also specifically right before you leave. Make sure he's had enough exercise and mental stimulation, and beware of trigger stacking, because separation distress is a stress-induced behavior. So the more layers you can peel away, the better off you're going to be. But evaluate by putting the dog in a flight simulator where he can succeed. Okay, number 3, no jumping up on people and no counter surfing, because guess what? That's the same behavior. Look at the dog in either of those situations. What position is his body in? Back feet are on the floor, front feet are in the air. So what we do with that is we teach 4 on the floor as a default behavior. It's really that easy. And I would appeal to transporters in this area. When you go pick up a dog at a house or wherever, don't let him jump up on you and then give him to the next transporter, and then he jumps up on that transporter, and then you give him to the third one, and he jumps up on that one, and then you give him to the foster. Now the dog's already been reinforced for jumping up in so many situations, and now the foster's going to have a really rough time. And then, you know, the foster, you don't have any room for error because everybody else already made the errors. And I'm not picking on transporters, I'm just pointing out we all work as a team, and if we're all working toward the same goal, it makes it easier on everybody. So you can't give too many treats or privileges for a dog having his hands on the floor, because it's really about the hands, right? Back feet are on the floor. I call them hands. So hands are on the floor, I'll open the door for you to go out. Hands are on the floor, look at you, here's a treat. Hands are on the floor, you want to get on the couch? You wouldn't let a new dog on the couch, of course, but whatever. You know, you're constantly thinking about how you can say, yeah, that's good. So, and no standing on rear legs for any reason. Even outside, you can't, you know, don't just be encouraging them to keep those hands on the floor, not up on the fence, not up on anything. Just don't. And jumping up can increase arousal and anxiety, so it can be a self-control and arousal issue. If you want your dog to give you a hug later, after he's learned as a default to keep his feet on the floor, then do that, but not with a new dog. All right, number 4, no resource guarding of items. So the goal is that dogs happily give people things from their mouths. And you heard me say dogs happily give them to you from their mouths. They spit them out into your hand, not they allow you to and wrestle stuff out of their mouth. That's not what we're going for here. So the evaluation for this is follow some of the guidelines that we have in the Facebook foster home group about starting out right and keeping your home safe for the new dog, which includes picking up everything off the floor and keeping it under your control. So we're not removing toys and chew bones from this dog's life. Far from it. We want him to have so many toys and so many chew bones that he's like, I have so many, why would I ever guard them? But you can't just leave that to him to figure out with a world of toys and chew bones on the floor. So if your dogs are used to that, then they're going to have to learn along with them. And they can learn self-control too. So it's just that you're controlling that stuff and you're giving them out to them when you can monitor. And then after they're done, you're putting them away. So there's not any mishaps. Put the dog in the flight simulator. So, and you start trading. You start trading the second day, even the first day. Even when you play fetch, and it is National Fetch Day after all. So when you play fetch, if you throw the ball and the dog's happily bringing it back to you to throw it again, stick a treat in there, or definitely always throw it again. I like to give a treat and then throw it again, because you already have a situation where he's willingly giving up something to you. And if you build from there, don't wait till he screws up. You've already got it. Reinforce and the behavior grows. So here's some things to observe though. Notice when a dog is eating, as you walk by, and I do mean by, don't walk toward the dog when he's eating, but walk past him and glance over. Does he eat faster, like start, I have to hurry and eat this because somebody's coming? Or does he go still with his face in the bowl and glance up at you with a whale eye as you walk by? That's resource guarding. Don't wait till he bites somebody. Fix it now. And your first step is going to be hand feeding this dog, which is always a good idea with a new dog anyway. Start out hand feeding so you start building good behavior. If you're afraid to hand feed him for whatever reason, if he's kind of feisty, drop the food in his bowl a little bit at a time, or drop it on the floor for him to eat. He'll get into that groove and just eat the food that way, and he starts to connect eating with you and realizing you're just bringing more food. It's a wonderful technique. Likewise, when the dog has a bone or a toy and you walk by, not toward, glance over, does he go still? Hold on to the toy like, oh, I'm going to guard this. That's guarding. So your trading comes in there, and your control of the items is super important. You have to monitor your own dogs. In general, in an ideal world, it is okay for dogs who know each other and are playing well together for dogs to refuse to let another dog yank something out of their mouth, because it's rude to yank something out of somebody's mouth. It's rude for us to do it. It's rude for dogs to do it. And if the dog says, no, you can't do that, that can be okay. But with a new dog, these are some of the things we have to build for him because he's not going to know. So we have to assume there's already stressors involved. There's some trigger stacking. Did my microphone go out? I think we can hear. Okay, I think it came back, sorry. So you have to monitor your dogs. You can't put them in that situation because even though in general it's okay for dogs to guard from other dogs a little bit, you don't want to do that right now because you're building resource guarding behavior, if that makes sense. You got to think of all the triggers that are in play, and you have to build that flight simulator for this dog. We're not going to have too many things happening until you're happily giving up your stuff. Then we can add some more distractions to the picture. So any kind of guarding is fear-based and stress-induced. Okay, resource guarding of locations is the next one. And the goal is dogs get off the furniture when we ask them to. So the evaluation is don't allow new dogs on the furniture. Because guess what? They don't know to get off when you ask them to. So we can provide a nice bed for them to get on, a dog bed, and then we can start to practice getting off the dog bed and getting a treat for that before we put them in the position of being on the couch or your bed and refusing to get off. Don't put them behind the controls of the airplane. Notice again, when the dog's on his bed or even when he's in his crate, does he, as you walk by nonchalantly, not approaching him, does he show stress behaviors? Toss him a treat. That's your sign that he may be guarding his area. So as you go by, that needs to start meaning, oh, I love for somebody to come near because I get a treat. So you just throw him a treat as you go by, you come back by, you throw him a treat. Make sure all the humans in the house are doing the same thing. Control the dogs. Don't let the dogs, irritate him right now until he kind of gets this. This is, again, a fear-based and stress-induced behavior, and it may go away as you peel away some of the stressors, but you have to notice it and build the behavior you want. And as always, invite the dog off the bed. Invite the dog out of the crate. Don't go to him. All right, number 6 is recall. So what's the goal for recall? Dogs happily come running every time they're called. And they choose to stay home and don't try to dig under the fence or go over the fence or whatever. Because recall, believe it or not, helps with that. So all in the world a recall is first association of all people with treats. It's wonderful when a dog chooses to come to you. If you're following low stress handling guidelines, you're inviting the dog to come to you anyway. So why not look at that as a recall, because it is. Anytime a dog chooses to come to you, whether you called him or not, it's, oh wow, you came to me, awesome, here's a treat. And then you start putting in a cue, dog come, or just the dog's name or whatever it is. He takes 2 steps towards you, he gets a treat. Then you start to call and reinforce from farther and farther distances. It's a specific learned behavior, but it's super easy to teach, and it almost falls naturally into the management and low stress handling guidelines that we're working with here. You get great results. So the more the dog's associating people and your home and your house and your yard with good things, you're going to call him away from the fence at some point. He's going to associate that, he's going to build that behavior, and you're reducing the chance that he's going to have that drive to dig out and go over the fence. Now, it may still be there in some cases, but we're literally reducing it through building a recall. Number 7 is a whole set of behaviors. It's our husbandry goals. So what are the goals? So what people want, and this is pretty unreasonable, is people want dogs to lie there quietly while they poke them, prod them, pull on stuff, push them around, reposition them, dig in stuff, clip parts of their body off and stuff like that, and the dog's just supposed to lay there quietly. Now, come on. So the evaluation of that is to remember the dogs have a right to be warned of what's about to happen and that they have a chance to cooperate. So our use of low stress handling techniques, inviting the dog, using association with everything, reinforcing those behaviors if he does lay down, thank you, buddy, and most important, allowing them to leave if they're like, I can't take anymore, it's been too much. Let them walk away. You can start over. You need to advocate for the dog at the vet and the groomer. I know it's a pandemic, you don't even get to go in with them. But one day, if we're ever able to, it's important. And be fair in your husbandry at home. Make sure everybody handles the dogs this way as much as you can. Dogs can learn to cooperate, but you have to actually teach them through conditioning. So there's an article in, I believe, our most recent, no, it was 2 issues ago, of our ESRA Feathers and Curls newsletter, and it's available maybe on the foster Facebook group, somewhere online that you can get, that has an article about teaching your dog this. So this is fear-induced, stress-induced, bad associations, learned behaviors, but the good news is we can change dogs' behavior in this situation. We can create great husbandry behaviors. And remember, every step you take has benefits and makes things better. So it makes it a little better, a little more better, a little more better, until you get the dog, just hand me his paw. Please do my nails now. Okay, number 8 and the last one is the no aggression goal. So here's where people have a little bit of an unreasonable standard. I'm sorry, it's not really unreasonable in this case. It's not enough. So a lot of people's standard is simply dogs don't bite people. Okay, that's a good start, but it's not enough. So what's really a lot better is dogs don't want to bite people. Do you see the difference? So the evaluation of that is first to remember all dogs bite, even your Fluffy. I will tell you about my lovely Rob. That was 3 springers ago. Most awesome dog in the world. I know you've all had one, but he was mine. And I used to always say, what would you have to do to make Rob bite? Maybe hold him down, start up a chainsaw, and begin to saw his head off, and then maybe he's going to bite you, right? And that's true of a lot of dogs, but they all have a threshold, and we change that threshold with, we lower the threshold with adding stress. We raise the threshold by reducing stress. That means the more stress we reduce, the less likely that all those triggers are going to stack up and put him in a position where he needs to bite somebody. So, prevention is really big. So, all dogs bite. Notice what you need to observe for is notice any stress signals. All stress signals lead to a bite. That's just a fact. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you see one stress signal, your dog's going to bite you, right? There's a pathway. But that's why we want to notice one stress signal in any situation, because that's your opportunity to change something and to prevent continuation down that path, to turn that path 90 degrees and go a different direction. So once the dog is in the mode of fight, freeze, or flight, it's too late. All you can do is recover from the situation, just end it, get out, and possibly some damage has been done behaviorally because he's made an association. He's gone to that place of a bite even if he didn't bite somebody, and he's learned. So management is super important. Asking the dog questions. How are you in this situation? How are you in this situation? Oh, some stress signals? Let me change something and make it better. You're feeling better? Okay, let's go this direction then. Low stress handling, the continuation of always asking questions and not stacking triggers. Making sure that you're not the short stick in the bunch. You're not contributing anything to a stress level. And positive reinforcement, not punishment. Because, I say all the time that I don't say no to dogs. That doesn't mean that I let dogs do whatever they want, by the way. I'm actually a control freak. But I don't yell no at them, I don't scold them, I don't spray them with stuff, I don't hit them, I don't jerk them around, because now I'm battling with them. My job is to prevent the battle, not to escalate the battle so that the dog has to escalate the battle. You can figure out a way, if it takes, just stop, get out of the situation, get a door between you and the dog where you can think, start over with a new plan. So that's evaluation of aggression. Most aggression is fear-based, as you know. Not all of it. It can be stress-induced. I hope that our policies and practices in Springer Rescue eliminate the dogs that are just They're just dogs that bite people a lot. And that we only get fear-based aggression problems here. Aggression can be related to any of the previous topics we've talked about too, as you can see, and many others. So that's that. All of these behavioral goals assume fairness, work the plan, achieve some part of the goal. It's a flight simulator. Where's the dog now? What's he capable of? That's evaluation. These goals assume asking the dog questions and ensuring his success at some level, and understanding that it's our job to go through a teaching process. You can't ask an animal to reliably perform a behavior that you haven't taught him how to do. That's a quote from Alexandra Kurland. You can look her up. She's a fabulous positive reinforcement horse trainer. And it applies to all animals. You got to teach them what to do. So thank you so much for being here today and talking about evaluation. And I hope that we have some questions to answer now.
We have a number. First of all, I'll try and group them. What if a dog isn't treat motivated?
What if a dog isn't treat motivated? If you listen to any of the previous training sessions and this one too, if a dog doesn't eat, he is stressed. Period. Or he has a horrible medical problem and he can't eat. So, which is also stress. So, dogs eat. If they don't eat, they die. And there's a way to help them start eating better separately from reducing their stress so that they can eat better. And if they eat, they can eat from your hand as well as a bowl, although they have to learn to do that. They want food, so you give them food in response to behaviors that you like. You can also use toys. You can use opening the door to go outside as a reinforcer. You can use petting as a reinforcer if the dog likes it. All this is dependent on your ability to read the dog and understand what's going on with him. And there's tons of reinforcers. Does he want to get in his crate? Whatever. But dogs that aren't stressed eat food.
When you say the dog is on a leash, is that like tether training?
When I say the dog is on a leash, is that like tether training? It sounds like that's the same thing. I don't know if you're referring to some specific program that somebody has called tether training. I don't know. But if you go back to the Start Out Right with Your Foster Dog training presentation, you will see that I told you I'm a control freak. And I also told you I like to put dogs in the flight simulator. And the flight simulator is control. Not letting the dog express behaviors that I don't want to see. Not asking a question that I don't want to hear the answer to. And that means not turning the dog loose in my whole house to explore the whole thing and go off in the corner and pee somewhere, or grab something and chew it or whatever. That means keeping the dog near me where I can see him and constantly doing positive reinforcement for behaviors I like. And if I can't do that at the moment, putting him somewhere that is a safe confinement area that keeps him from expressing behaviors that I don't want to see, with plenty of things to do in there to make him happy. So that's what I mean by using a leash. And you can ask Albert how long he stayed on a leash after we got him at 5 months. And I would say it was a long time. So there you go.
What's the best way to reinforce a good behavior when a dog is jumping up, for example?
What's the best way to reinforce a good behavior when a dog is jumping up, for example? Okay, so if you have a dog that jumps up, you have to get in front of that. So if the dog has already jumped up, you already missed your opportunity. So that's when a leash comes in handy. That's when being right there, predicting, reading that dog's behavior If a dog has a history of jumping up on people, then I'm gonna always greet that dog 100% of the time. After the first time he jumped on me, I'm gonna greet him like this. Hey, Al, can you get up? Come here, bud. This is how I'm gonna greet him. Down at his mouth with a treat, and then I'm gonna be down there petting him. Period. I'm never gonna be up here. I'm never gonna go, yay, happy to see you. I'm never gonna go, hi, dog. I'm gonna go, hi, dog, every single time. Because that way I'm going to prevent it. I'm going to keep those hands on the floor, and he's not going to jump up. So that's really the key, is setting him up to not jump up. So once he has jumped up, all you can really do is get out of the situation. I mean, you know, there's all kinds of things that, yes, you can turn your back. That can help. Some dogs, if they're committed jumpers, they're just going to jump on your back. Some dogs it works for. It's really great, though. If you have a leash, you can do a U-turn. We've talked about that in a previous session, I think. But really, it's getting in front of the behavior, predicting. Watch that dog come at you. What does he look like? Are you seeing him kind of already come up before he gets to you? Get down there. Put him on a leash ahead of time, or whatever. It's really preventing. That's how you reinforce a positive behavior.
What if a dog will not eat in the crate and guards the treat or bone or whatever?
What if a dog will not eat in the crate and guards the treat or bone or whatever? Then that's a problem, right? Yeah. So you need some crate training. So, yes. You have to give him... So going back to, I'm thinking we're talking about, we'll use as an example the area of separation, distress, potentialities that we talked about, and how you want to put him in his confinement area with something yummy. So you want to give him something really small that he can finish before you get back. If he's not going to eat it at all, then you probably have to look at your confinement situation and maybe try something else. Another opportunity might be, I'm thinking of things like, you could try attaching something to the door of the crate. Like, you know, with puppies, a lot of times it's really fun to hang Kongs from a rope from the wire of the crate so they can, you know, get the food out of them. You could try that with the door, so that then when you reach for the door and open it, then it's, you know, it's gone. You can get it out of the picture really quick. Yeah, that's a whole situation. You may not be able to give him anything for a while. You may have to do some crate training sessions. So this is a pretty specific resource guarding situation. I can talk to you about games to crate train to make them fun. I would hand feed the dog separately from this situation. So one of the things that we do in training too is try not to train in the super stressful situation, like when he's in his crate with the valuable thing. That's not when you do your training. You do your training in other situations, like you're hand feeding him his meals, things like that, so that he's learning, oh, I really like when people's hands come toward me when there's food involved, right? That's a really small part, but it's a really important part. You could use one of those grandmother things, reach in and grab the thing. But I'm thinking more like you don't want to give him anything in his crate. But then you have to think about, how am I going to get him to love his crate, and how am I going to get him to love me being gone? So it's a whole set of situations, and we have to make a plan so that the dog can have a good time when you're gone. Maybe he already does, and maybe it's not a big deal. I don't know. But if he's got separation distress and he guards the food in his crate, now we have a big problem. So probably we have to work out a specific plan for that dog. So I hope that's a little bit helpful, and you're welcome to email me with a story if I need to help with that dog.
Can you describe how to safely hand feed a new dog?
How to safely hand feed a new dog. There's actually a video about different ways to give dogs treats. I believe that it is in the foster home Facebook group files section. If not, it's on my Achieving Forever YouTube channel, and it shows you some different ways to give treats to dogs. The general way that I want to get to usually with giving a dog a treat is the dog, and here's the treat. This is my hand here, so I like to give them like this. Put it right in the dog's mouth, right? And by the way, if you go ahead and put it in the dog's mouth, then that keeps him from grabbing. You know, some people are a little shy about that, so they kind of go, and the dog has to like grab it because they're, don't bite me, don't bite me. You don't want to do that. Put it in. And if you can't put it in, there are other ways. One way is just putting it in your palm. And if you give it to the dog kind of closer under his chin, like against his neck like this, then he has to kind of pull back to bend his head to get it. And that keeps his jaw from being able to snap so hard. By the way, you know that stressed dogs, their jaws are tight and they will start to take treats really hard. Even a dog who's taking treats lightly and nicely, if they get more stress during a training session, you'll see them start to get snappy with their jaw. So that's a thing that happens. And when you put your hand under like this, cause them to pull back and bend their neck like a dressage horse, their jaw is not going to have the power to do that, and so they're going to take it gently. So you're teaching them and also conditioning their face muscles to work a different way. So that's a good one. Another one is you can put it in your palm like this and kind of clench it with the muscles of your hand, and you can actually bring it right toward the dog like that, so you can get it like that. And it's really hard for him to, you know, bite you there because it's just the palm of your hand. Also, dropping treats on the floor is a fantastic way. Some dogs who are guardy will guard their food bowls. And it's not so much the food as the food bowl. So if you take the bowl out of the picture and just, there is no bowl, there's just the floor, you can just drop, you know, a few kibbles on the floor. Make sure they don't scatter all over the place. You want to be able to control it. You know, because if you drop a handful of kibble and it goes all over the room and now the dog's chasing them all over the room, anything could happen. It could be getting more and more aroused. You don't want that. But, you know, just kind of gently putting a kibble down. He eats it. You put another one. You put two. If he eats meaty foods, then that makes it even easier because it goes splat instead of scattering. So that's fair. If he doesn't guard his food bowl, you don't think, or if you're ready to start putting the food bowl back into the picture after feeding him on the floor for a while, then you can do the same thing with the food bowl. Get a big food bowl, get a different food bowl from the one he was guarding if that's been a problem. Get a really big one and just stand there and just drop bits of kibble in there. And every time he's finishing, you're dropping another one. And it doesn't mean, you know, don't put your hand like reach down in the bowl. You're just tossing them. You get really good at tossing. So those are some safe ways. Does that help?
So what about dogs that get too treat motivated? I'll give you two examples you might not need to repeat, but one is a dog that goes out in the yard, asks to go out to go to the bathroom, but they don't actually go to the bathroom. Just like they might even pretend like they'll squat and they won't actually pee because they want to get their treat.
I actually know that one. Okay, this is described as a dog who gets too excited about the treats and does think. Did you have another example too? Say that again.
Somebody was trading a treat for a rock, and so at some point the dog just started bringing rocks to get
awesome.
treats.
Okay, so this is what you want. Okay, so the question is, the dog gets too excited about the treats and then starts offering behaviors to get treats. Newsflash, this is what you want. This is a dog making good choices. So the two examples are, one is asking to go outside and then going out and not really needing to go to the bathroom and maybe just pretending to go. Awesome. Well, I'll talk about that in a second. And the other one is trading treats for rocks and then the dog bringing rocks to get treats. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. My lovely dog Angus, my previous dog to Albert here, who died a few years ago, was the king of, if you told him go potty, he would, being a boy, he would lift his leg and make a drop come out, even if he didn't need to go. And that's how you know whether he needed to go or not. And yeah, I got a treat for that, for heck's sake. I mean, come on. That's a lot of work he's going to make a good choice and say, I can do something that I know they like to give me a treat for. Same thing with the rock. So I get this a lot. I actually had this from a foster home not too long ago. The dog actually was a serious resource guarder and had bitten a number of people. And the dog went and got a sock and brought it to the foster and was like, well, I didn't know whether to give him a treat for it or not because he shouldn't have had my sock. Well, did he know he wasn't supposed to have the sock? The sock was on the floor. You didn't put your sock up. Dog brought the sock. Can the dog get a treat? Heck yeah, he can get a treat for that. Can we teach the dog to always ignore all socks that are on the floor? Yeah, we could, but it's probably a lot easier to pick your socks up. That actually does take a lot of input. It doesn't take any input to trade a dog something. So think of what the dog could have done instead. The dog could have gotten the sock, gone over into the back of the corner of the house and torn it to shreds and then walked away. So which is better? Bringing you stuff? It's National Fetch Day. Dog brings you a rock, give him a treat for it. Way better to have a dog who's going around trying to find things to bring you than a dog who's shredding your curtains, eating roasts off the counter. What are all the other bad things dogs can do? That's what we're going for. We're saying to the dog, come up with something to do to make me give you a treat. I like that. So that's my thought on that.
That's the last question.
All right, that was the last question. So let me just go back to that last one just briefly. Teaching dogs to make good choices. So we're not talking about, I love training dogs to do things on cue. Sit down, spin, twist, come, back up, fetch, get on the table, go through the tunnel. I love that stuff. That's all great. But that can all be left to the adoptive home to do. What really makes a great pet is a dog who makes good choices that you don't have to constantly be on. No, stop, come, sit, down, heel, no, heel, 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 go, stop, get over there, mat, no, mat, stay. We don't need to be constantly telling dogs stuff all the time. If we reinforce the behaviors that we want, what we see is the dog just choosing from that list we've given him, and it's an expansive list. You can lay on that bed, you can lay on that other bed, you can lay on the floor, you can look out the window, you can look at me and I'll let you outside. All of those things are acceptable. Wow, you sat, here's a treat, that's a good choice. So we're giving the dog the opportunity to just show us some cool things. You can bring me whatever you find on the floor because I shouldn't have left it there. If you find a rock, sure, bring it to me. I'll give you a treat. And then pretty soon you'll be fetching a ball. Teach him to fetch a ball instead of a rock. If he wants a treat, find a way for him to get the treat. And then you have a great pet that anybody wants to adopt.
Please stress that concerns about aggression should be discussed with your coordinator immediately before it escalates. That's from Sherry.
And let me just stress, Sherry just made a really good point. Aggression, as well as any kind of separation distress, are problems that need to be reported to your coordinator. What I'm here today to talk to you about is, again, evaluation. How to put that dog in a flight simulator. And watch for, remember when I talked about aggression, I talked about the first stress signal. That can be aggression. Assume it's aggression and turn that around. We're not talking about when you get to, if you do get to fight, freeze, or flight, or before that, for heaven's sakes, if you're seeing these stress signals every day and they're building and you're getting growls, which are warnings, then you needed to already, hopefully you're talking to your coordinator steadily anyway and giving reports, but you got to report that to your coordinator. We're not asking you to fix all of this. That is not what I'm saying. I'm trying to show you how to evaluate for the signs of how these behaviors are doing way in advance of there being a problem with any of them, especially aggression. So I talked about aggression, but remember I told you to notice any stress signals. When I talked about resource guarding, I mentioned don't approach their bowl, but as you walk by, glance over. Do they eat faster or stop eating and stare? That's your resource guarding. When you're 20 feet away, did the dog do that? Notice before it gets to a point where you have aggression. That's your key. And, I mean, in that case, tell your coordinator that too, because it's heading to aggression. It's way ahead of it, and we can still prevent it. But we need to know about it, and we need to make a plan together to help this dog succeed. Because once the dog bites somebody, we're in a whole different ballgame. And we don't want you to be in danger. We don't want the dog to be in danger. We don't want anybody to be in danger. So I'm always talking about being so far ahead of any of these problem behaviors that we can talk about it, we can make a plan, and we can fix it before it happens. Because I don't want to get that call that the dog bit somebody. That's what we're talking about.
Just a comment from somebody that she loves these sessions. She had a dog that was a serial pre-washing before she'd put dishes in the dishwasher. He liked to sit there and lick the dishes pre-washing. She was saying now he just sits there or lies there in front of the open dishwasher with his tail wagging. So thank you.
Awesome.
I don't know if you want to pass it along or not. Probably not.
Somebody made a comment about she had a dog who was a serial pre-dishwasher. I assume licking all the dishes in the dishwasher. Is that what it sounded like? Yeah. And now she's been able to teach him to just wait and not do that. So yeah, I mean, my Aunt Ann used to rescue dogs, 30 years ago, and she just put all the plates on the floor for the rescue dogs to lick. But whatever, I don't really do that. But so yeah, I'm here to help. Everybody can find my email easily. If you have any questions, email me. And I love having the opportunity of helping y'all get ahead of these problems. That's the goal. That's what helps dogs. For us to really make a plan and get in there ahead of a problem and help them succeed. Put them in the flight simulator. Don't put them in an airplane because they don't know how to fly it and they're going to crash. So thank you.